Hey, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, I should say. Good Monday morning. We have a winter storm on the way here to southeast Texas, and I want to go ahead and give you the very latest. And what we have, the very latest models coming in are showing a more aggressive precipitation pattern shaping up here across the area. So we have big travel impacts possible heading into tomorrow. Again, this is now the third time that we've seen winter weather move into the city of Houston in about 5 weeks, so exceedingly unusual, but nonetheless something that we're going to have to get prepared for, partly because this appears to be more of an ice event rather than a snow event. So again, travel will begin tomorrow morning to get hazardous, especially up on the north side, and travel will become more hazardous throughout the day, even here in the city of Houston. Currently we do have excuse me. Currently, we do have a winter weather advisory in effect for all of our counties here locally. So that includes everywhere up north all the way to the coast. So if you're watching from Chambers, Galveston, Brazoria counties, you too are also in on this winter weather advisory. Now, we are getting some wording from the National Weather Service right now that we could see this upgraded to a winter storm warning as we get into the afternoon hours today. So a winter storm warning means that hazardous driving conditions are expected and winter storm conditions are expected within about 24 hours. So we don't have those warnings yet. It's still just an advisory, but it's possible that we could see these advisories upgraded to a winter storm warning later on this afternoon to include the city of Houston. So we'll keep you updated on that. Right now, it does appear that we will have rain transitioning to sleet and freezing rain as early as about 4 a.m. up to areas to the north. We're talking College Station, Madisonville, Huntsville. That threat will transition further to the south once we get to about, say, 7 a.m. for areas like Conroe, Woodlands, Tomball, getting out towards Katy and Sealy, and eventually moving into the city of Houston by the time we get to about 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and then lasting throughout the day. So as the day goes on and those temperatures continue to tumble, we're going to see the roads begin to glaze up a little bit. So, and we're talking about surface streets as well. Surface streets, freeways, bridges, and overpasses, of course, will be the first to freeze, followed by those surface streets. Now, as far as accumulations go, at least right now, it appears that we are looking at about 1/10 of an inch of ice. What does that mean? Well, it means that travel conditions will become hazardous throughout the day, but it won't be enough to bring down trees or power lines, okay? So this is not going to be a widespread ice storm as much as it is more of a nuisance ice, and that is it's going to make some of the surface streets and freeways and, of course, bridges and overpasses very dangerous to drive on heading into tomorrow afternoon. So, could we see a little bit of snow as well? It is certainly a possibility. Before the precipitation comes to an end, we may briefly see the ice transition over to snow, even here in the city of Houston, but that remains to be seen. Of course, with winter storms here in southeast Texas, they're notoriously hard to predict and oftentimes offer up a few surprises as these events get underway. What kind of surprises? You'll have to excuse me, guys, I'm getting over the flu. What kind of surprises are we talking about? Well, maybe a little bit more accumulation than expected. Maybe the event begins a little bit sooner than anticipated. So we're going to have to watch this hour by hour as this event begins to unfold here across the Houston area. Again, right now it appears the main threat will be mainly ice, followed by perhaps maybe a brief transition over to some snow before it all comes to an end. I think all precipitation chances are on the board. Whether you're watching from Galveston County, Harris County, Fort Bend County, we're talking cold rain transitioning over to freezing rain, followed by sleet, and then eventually ending as maybe a little bit of snow before it all comes to an end. So what about the timing? Well, let's go ahead and take a look here at the National Weather Service. Let me turn the camera around. And we'll start off here with a look at the timing. And you'll see areas in pink there up to the north. That does include areas up in north of Livingston, Huntsville, Madisonville, College Station between midnight and 6 a.m. Okay, so we're talking about already conditions becoming hazardous in our far northwestern zones. Then, as we transition from 6 a.m. until noon, we're talking about that line getting down into central Liberty County, getting out through, say, Bush Intercontinental Airport, just to the north of downtown Houston, Sugar Land, down to El Campo. So basically along 59 is where you can expect that sleet, freezing rain line to be between 6 a.m. and noon. And finally, once we get into the noon and 6 p.m. time frame, we're moving down into the coastal counties as well. Now, Chambers and Galveston counties aren't so much included in this in the 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. time frame. I think that if you guys are going to see any wintry weather, and I do think that you will, that this will be after 6 p.m. for the immediate coast. So again, this appears to be an all-day event, especially for areas up to the north where temperatures will drop below freezing first and stay below freezing all day long. Here in the city of Houston, between 6 a.m. and noon. In fact, I do think that areas in northern Harris County, even getting down all the way to about downtown Houston, could see that transition over to freezing rain and sleet as early as about 9 a.m. and then getting down into northern portions of Brazoria County by the time we get to about noon. So we're going to have to watch this very carefully as far as the timing goes, because remember, if the temperatures are a little colder than anticipated, then we are going to see things begin to ice up quicker than anticipated. As far as our winter weather advisories go, give it just a second to load up here. You can see the winter storm warning basically from about Memphis, Tennessee, all the way down into the Austin, San Antonio area. In fact, you can see San Antonio is under a winter storm warning as well. Austin, Waco, and areas just to the south of Dallas, stretching up into Shreveport. Now, what you see here in the purple is going to be that winter weather advisory, and that will include all of the Houston area, including from our coastal counties, Crystal Beach, Galveston, and Freeport, Angleton, Pearland, Hobby, Sugarland, Katy, Tomball, Humble, The Woodlands, Conroe, Brenham, College Station, Huntsville, Cold Spring, Livingston, Madisonville, Corrigan, and Winnie. So keep in mind that there is some wording coming out from the National Weather Service right now that a lot of this area here that you see in purple may be transitioning to a pink, which would represent a winter storm warning. So we'll have to continue to watch that trend, especially if the latest models are any indication. That is that we will see freezing rain, sleet, and eventually a little bit of snow move into the area by tomorrow. So again, beginning in the morning and ending tomorrow night. Now, has this ever happened before where we've had multiple snow events in the same year? Well, these are all the years that it has snowed here in Houston, going back to 1895. And if I clear out those, we're left behind the years that it has snowed multiple times in the same season. 1925 and 26, it snowed in December of 25 and January of 26. We'll count that as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now 2017 and 2018. So this has happened 7 different times over the last 123 years. So pretty rare to see multiple snow events in the same year, but as we see here, it is certainly a possibility. All right, let's take a look at a couple of computer models here. We'll start off with this particular one, our future track, and you'll see that by 8 o'clock this evening, our Arctic front beginning to push on into our northern suburbs. There's the front pushing into Houston right around midnight, and you can see all the precipitation left behind this Arctic front. As we transition into, excuse me, 2 a.m., you can see areas up near Huntsville to College Station are already seeing the transition over from rain to ice. Again, that's going to be right around 2 o'clock in the morning. Then you see by 6 a.m., the sleet and freezing rain line is now pushing into Harris County. So areas basically along and north of 1960 will already be in on the sleet and freezing rain by as early as 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. Then you'll see that pushes into southeast Harris County, perhaps even into our coastal counties. This is showing as early as 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So that's an interesting update there of this particular model. Then you'll see some of the snow bands beginning to develop here by the time we get to noon across our northern locations. And eventually you see some of that banding of snow push into Houston by the time we get to 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And you see that ice even down towards Galveston by the time we get to 4 o'clock. And then it all comes to an end. Now keep in mind, the more snow and ice we have on the ground, the colder those temperatures are going to be as we get into Wednesday morning. And some of the computer models indicate that we could see upper teens and lower 20s. So not only are we dealing with ice and snow, but we're also talking about the possibility here of some pipe bursting weather. So definitely make sure those pipes are protected. Now here's another look at another computer model. This is going to be a little higher resolution. And you can see this is 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And you can see that the transition from rain to ice is already occurring in Houston by 11 o'clock. Snow up areas north of 1960. And then you could see that snow transitioning into the city of Houston by the time we get to 4 o'clock. So again, not totally out of the question that we could see a quick changeover to some snow here, even in Houston by tomorrow afternoon. But my goodness, look at the ice that breaks out across the region. This is 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So keep in mind that this is 11:30, 11:15, 11 o'clock in the morning. We're already seeing that transition over to ice here in the city of Houston. And we're talking about an all-day event. Here it is, 8 o'clock at night, and you can see the precipitation still falling across the Houston area. So I think travel conditions will continue to deteriorate throughout the day here across the Houston area. So I'll tell you what, tomorrow probably going to be a good day not to go to work, and I suspect that we're going to see a slew of school closings here locally due to the ice that is anticipated even down to the coastal regions. So looking at about a 70% chance of excuse me guys, 70% chance of precipitation, a lot of that falling in the form of freezing rain and sleet here in the city of Houston along the I-10 corridor. Snow really once you get towards College Station and Huntsville. I think that'll be more the predominant type up there. But again, not totally out of the question that we could see this snow line transition all the way down into Houston as we get into tomorrow evening before the event comes to a close. Here's the very latest look at the GFS computer model. And I'll try to get as close as I can here. So there we are right there at the head of Galveston Bay. You can see our precipitation lagging behind the Arctic front. And as we put this into motion, you'll see the snow beginning to break out across Dallas, transitioning down towards Waco and Shreveport. And look at all the purple and pink beginning to show up here across southeast Texas. That's an indication of freezing rain and sleet. That begins to push into the city of Houston as well. And then you'll see briefly the blue pushing in as well, so maybe indicating a brief changeover to some snow before it's all said and done. By the way, if it does snow here in Houston at Bush Intercontinental Airport, it'll be the third time this season that we have had snow officially at the airport, which is the official recording site here in Houston. And that'll mark only the second time in recorded history that we've had 3 snows in the same season, the first time being 1973. So an exceedingly rare event beginning to shape up here across southeast Texas. Now, taking a look at the long range, believe it or not, you know, February is our coldest and snowiest month here in Houston, and all indications are that the cold is going to continue. In fact, some very cold weather moving into the month of February. So could we see yet more ice and snow as we get into the month of February? It is certainly possible. Wouldn't rule it out, especially the way this winter has been going. So in the meantime, again, I think that the best thing to prepare for is ice. I think that'll be the predominant precipitation type. I think that we begin Monday morning, or Tuesday morning rather, with a cold rain here in Houston, but quickly transitioning over to a wintry mix, which is a form of freezing rain, sleet. And then eventually, as all this comes to an end, we may see a brief change over to some snow as well. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Again, winter weather advisories are up area-wide. Let me go ahead and show you that one more time for those that are just joining us. And I suspect that we could very well see this transition over to a winter storm warning as we get into the afternoon hours today. So again, at least right now, what you see in the purple is that winter weather advisory for all the Houston area, and that winter storm warning going to be areas just to the north of us. So between Dallas and Houston appears to be the bullseye for the heaviest ice and snow. Now again, this is continuing to evolve hour by hour, and we could see this winter storm warning drop south into Houston as well. Okay, so I see a lot of questions about school closures coming through at this time. I do not have any information regarding school closings at this time. I know a lot of folks, wondering about HISD and Fort Bend ISD, Conroe ISD, Spring ISD, Cypress, you get it, all the ISDs across the Houston area. Still waiting on word from those ISDs to see if school will be in session tomorrow at this time. They will be. We do not have any school closings at this time, but again, keep check of their social media pages, their Twitter accounts. I suspect that's where they will be issuing any updates regarding school closings there. That'll be the first place they do it, and of course we'll get the press release shortly after. So keep an eye on their social media accounts as far as school closings go at this time. No school closings that we have right now. Now keep in mind that tomorrow conditions will deteriorate throughout the day. We're looking at basically roads will be okay before 9 a.m. here in Houston, but then they will begin to ice up as we get through into the afternoon hours. So it's one of those rare events when we could actually see ice and snow even in the middle of the afternoon. So normally we see these kind of events late at night or first thing in the morning when the temperatures are the coldest, but temperatures are going to be falling throughout the day, and we could end up in the upper 20s by the time we get to about 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So interesting days ahead, my friends. Days ahead. We'll continue to keep you updated the best we can, and of course I'll be breaking in here on Facebook Live about once an hour to give you guys the very latest as to what we're looking at and the latest model projections. Alright, stay safe, stay warm. We have a lot of cold weather headed our way, and of course we could be looking at that winter storm as well, beginning as early as 4 a.m. for our northern counties, transitioning into the Houston area by the time we get to about 9 o'clock. If that changes, of course we'll let you know, and I'll see you guys in about an hour.